It makes no sense. The only time it makes sense is when you overlay the map of these attacks with the geological map of Nigeria, mapping where all the resources are. And then you realize that what you are witnessing is simply places being cleared out for the sake of mining. It's DR Congo. That's it. That's the simple answer. It's DR Congo. That's what's happening. Nigeria is basically North Kivu. Wow. Simple as that. Like, I just solved the terrorism question. It's not Kivu. That's what's happening.
Let's talk about insecurity, because that's probably the biggest issue that's going on right now. I think probably, I don't know whether you think that insecurity is, do you think that the insecurity issue in northern Nigeria is like the biggest problem right now in Nigeria?
I think it's a symptom.
It's a symptom
of the biggest problem.
Okay.
And that problem is still the basic fact that Nigerians are not in control of Nigeria. Nigerians don't know what is happening in Nigeria. So it's possible to look at something and not see what's going on. So if you're looking at the situation, all you're seeing is violence, genocidal violence, or what looks like genocidal violence. You're seeing people being driven off their land, people ending up in IDP camps, people being slaughtered. That's all you are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are taking it again at face value, then you are looking for a face value explanation. And one of those explanations is, the Muslims are killing Christians. They are killing Christians. Very simple, easy to understand explanations, which unfortunately don't capture how the world really works. I was telling someone this the other day that across the north and middle belt of Nigeria, where in a lot of these places, they are both Christian and Muslim populations. In a lot of these places, like one village might be majority Muslim, one might be majority Christian. But it's not as if like there's one like homogeneously Muslim or homogeneously Christian. That's not how it works. It's always been mixed. What is the only statistical measure that you can use to make sense of these attacks that happen? Because you will see in one village they kill 69 Christians, in another village they kill 84 Muslims. Why are Islamic terrorists killing Muslims?
Yeah.
For what reason? Okay, let's say they are Islamic terrorists and they want to kill Christians and traditional worshippers. That's fine. We understand that. Why are they killing Muslims? And then why are they killing more Muslims than any other people? Since these are traditional, since these are Islamic terrorists who are trying to set up an Islamic caliphate, that's the cover explanation. Why did they target some villages? Why did they ignore some others? Why is it that this village might get wiped out and this other village that is right next to it, there might be an attack, but it doesn't get wiped out? Why is that? And then the population in both places, they are both mixed. They're both Christian, they're both Muslim, the ethnicities, because there are hundreds of ethnicities that sort of fold in over each other in that part of the country as well. They're not like very clearly defined entities. It makes no sense. The only time it makes sense is when you overlay the map of these attacks with the geological map of Nigeria, mapping where all the resources are. And then you realize that what you are witnessing is simply places being cleared out for the sake of mining. It's DR Congo. That's it. That's the simple answer. It's DR Congo. That's what's happening. Nigeria is basically North Kivu.
Wow.
Simple as that. Like, I just solved the terrorism question. It's not Kivu. That's what's happening. But because it's not an obvious answer that's in your face, you don't realize that this is what is going on. And again, because Nigerians have these very unhelpful ideas of how supposedly powerful Nigeria is. Nigeria is actually a very weak country, as it is currently. It might have numbers and it doesn't have territorial sovereignty. It's a very easy to penetrate kind of place. So yeah, that's what is happening. And I say this I'm not exonerating myself here either, because I used to be one of these people too, parroting these very simple explanations for everything. In fact, in 2020, shortly before the then US Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, left office, The very last major decision he made was to designate Nigeria as a country of particular concern, right, for violation of religious freedom.
Okay.
The reason he designated Nigeria was that a report had been submitted to the State Department, a report that I worked on, right? So if you check the report, there are 3 names on the report, and then there's et al. I'm one of the et al. Right. So there are 2 NGOs involved in making this report. Again, at the time, I was a lot more naive than I am now. I didn't understand then that if anybody comes to you with anything, asking you to be part of a project, the first question you need to ask is who is funding it? Where's the money coming from? Because from understanding where the money is coming from, you know what the agenda is. I didn't know any of this then. So I was approached, come help us work on a documentation project. We're documenting evidence of violence in northern Nigeria. So that's what I thought I was doing. I'm doing the right thing. I'm lending my talents to documenting how these innocent people have been slaughtered. So we basically went around for months around northern Nigeria, gathering evidence of people being slaughtered, death certificates and all that kind of stuff. And we came out with a report. The report was called Silent Slaughter, Nigeria's Genocide in Nigeria and Implications for the International Community. It was by 2 NGOs called ICON, International Committee on Nigeria, a British NGO, and PSG, that's the International Project for Peace Building and Social Justice, also a British NGO with UK government funding. Okay, just to be absolutely clear. So we published that report, and what that report basically said, you can download this report, it's available online. Okay. What this report basically said was, this is conclusive evidence that Christians are being targeted for slaughter. Christians are being genocided. Okay. In Nigeria. Now, at the time, again, being the naive so-and-so that I was, it didn't occur to me to ask certain questions, apart from the funding and whatnot. What was the methodology of that report? The data gathering, what was the methodology? Because we went around these places gathering things like death certificates. Now, you obviously live in a multi-religious country. You have some idea of what the burial practices are for both major religions. Yeah. Where are you more likely, or with which group are you more likely to find death certificates?
Christians, huh?
Obviously. Yeah. Because when a Muslim dies, he's buried before sunset.
The same day.
There's no death certificate. There's nothing. It's gone. That's the end. It's over. It's the Christians that are likely to put them in a morgue and then do documentation, death certificates. So we went around intentionally gathering skewed evidence. So if 84 Muslims were killed here and 67 Christians were killed here, we gathered evidence of the 67 Christians and completely erased the 84. Okay. And then compiled those things into a report and presented it to the US government and said, this is evidence that Christians are being genocided in Nigeria. And I was a part of that. Of course, not knowing what I was doing, not understanding who I was working for. I thought I was just doing the right thing. Yes. So Mike Pompeo designates Nigeria, and then Anthony Blinken comes in, takes Nigeria off the list. Then Marco Rubio comes in, designates Nigeria again, and next thing Trump starts talking about Christians are being killed in Nigeria, then Ted Cruz. And that report is the narrative basis for all these kites they have been flying. If you query them, that based on what are you saying there's a specific genocide of Christians in Nigeria, they will point to my report.
So your report was the baseline?
Yes.
Interesting.
So you then realize, when you then draw the line back far enough, who funded this thing? What was the purpose of this? You then realize this whole thing was planned ahead of time. And you were not even a protagonist. You were just a useful idiot. Someone already planned ahead of time. We need to be paper ready. Yeah? We need to create a paper trail proving this tenuous thing that we want to prove, and use that as premise for military intervention, knowing fully well that we have a different goal in mind altogether. Whether Christian or Muslim, anybody dies is not their business. Everybody knows that. They have rare earth minerals and other things that they want, other things that we don't even know that we have. But they know. And they want those things. And this is the premise that they're going to use. So as far back as 2019, someone had already been setting up the narrative infrastructure
Yeah.
and co-opting people who didn't know any better, including myself, to take part in their own funeral, which is effectively what I was doing.
Wow. Now, when you heard Trump tweeting, "I'm coming guns blazing to come and protect Christians in Nigeria," then you see Nikki. Of course, Trump is using Nikki to push this agenda. When you saw that tweet, and then Nikki, of course, like, what's the first thing that came to your mind before we even go to the bombing that came later during Christmas?
The first thing that came to my mind is, oh no, not again. Because we've seen this exact script before. If you recall, during a similar campaign in 2014 called Bring Back Our Girls.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was big.
P. Diddy,
yeah,
Chris Rock, Michelle Obama,
everybody.
I think Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
They got all the Hollywood all-stars holding hashtag Bring Back Our Girls and all of that. That was all part of a regime change operation. Bring Back Our Girls was the big event in the marketing strategy part of the regime change operation. It was literally like a few months to the election.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see.
That's what that was all about.
So now, what do you think about the Christmas bombing that happened in the Sokoto, right? Was it in Sokoto State?
Oh, late last year.
Yes, the Christmas bombing last year in Sokoto State. What do you think about that?
To be honest, I was kind of more focused on the US airstrikes. So as terrible as it sounds, those things have become everyday news in Nigeria. So when you hear that there was a suicide bombing in a mosque or a church,
yes,
it's Tuesday.
Okay.
So it's not something that necessarily you pay that much attention to. The reason that particular one got all that airplay that it did was, again, because at that point in time, it served somebody's narrative purposes. Somebody was trying to portray Nigeria a certain way at that time. Okay. So it served the purpose at that time to turn this into a huge production. Just the same way Bring Back Our Girls served a purpose at that time. They turned that abduction into this international event. Meanwhile, there have been other abductions since then, even bigger, which you never heard about. So again, it goes back to what I was saying when we talked about Sani Abacha.
Yes.
Poisoned information from a poisoned source for a specific geopolitical purpose. People need to become more wary of it.
So what's the purpose that they wanted to serve at that particular point with the overpublication of that bombing of the US airstrike that happened in Christmas last year?
No, if you're trying to justify military intervention, then you need to show that the country is unstable.
Okay.
They can't govern themselves. The situation is critical, and they need you to come in and save them.
Okay. So there are more strikes coming.
I plead the fifth.
That's what Ahmed told me, that that was a test. Most likely, once this Venezuela thing cools down, there's more. And I think Trump alluded to that recently. What do you think?
I plead the fifth.
But let's say if it were, right? What's the end game here? Is America trying to, everybody was saying this is an oil theft that's fixing to happen.
It's not as simple as oil.
Okay.
This isn't 2005. It's a lot more than oil. First of all, and I think I've addressed this in one of the video I've done previously, the world the so-called unipolar world is breaking down. The US is no longer the sole undisputed hegemon of the world. There are now at least 2 or 3 what it calls near peer powers. That's Russia and China, plus other ones that are no longer that easy to push around, like North Korea and Pakistan and whatnot. So that's what they call the multipolar order, even though it's really just a tripolar order as far as I'm concerned. Now, what has happened? One of the things that happened was that China recently restricted exports of refined rare earth minerals to the US. For those who don't know, rare earth minerals are everywhere. They're inside this, they're inside your TV, they're inside your car, they're inside everything,
Everywhere.
any kind of modern electronics, and they're also inside everything that relates to the military, to war. They are in drones, they are in tanks, they are in aircraft, they are in everything. So whoever controls the rare earth mineral supply chain becomes the military hegemon of tomorrow. China controls a huge majority of the global rare earth supply chain. Now the US government sees that exposure to China as a strategic weakness. So their goal, and all of this is not me hypothesizing, this is what they themselves have said.
Okay.
I'm quoting their trade secretary or the commerce secretary, Steve Lutnick, and the trade secretary, Scott Bessent, where they basically said, we are going to create a rare earth minerals mining and refining supply chain of our own in 2 years. Because the current supply chain is almost entirely dependent on China.
Okay.
They want to create their own for the sake of their national security. Now, two things you need to know about rare earths. First of all, the process of refining is extremely toxic and environmentally destructive. Nobody wants to do it on their own territory. The only reason China controls that much of that technology is because, first of all, China has vast territory, and they've been able to master the refining technology in such a way that they've been able to minimize how environmentally disastrous it is. So they don't need to outsource it to anywhere else. So they can do it on their territory. Nobody else has that same level of sophistication. So if anybody is going to do any sort of large-scale solid minerals refining, they don't want to do it on their territory. They want to do it on someone else's land.
Okay.
The second thing is, where is it in the world right now that you can find these rare earths in the concentrations that you need to be able to mine them commercially in a place that is not already controlled by one of these other near-peer adversaries? You can't get them from the Sahel because Russia.
Yes.
Right? Obviously can't get them from China anymore. Which was the only other place in Sahelian West Africa that isn't under the control of, say, Russia or something. It's northern Nigeria.
Okay.
So you kill two birds with one stone. Northern Nigeria has everything you want. So you can do the large-scale strip mining there after you clear all the inhabitants out. And they think that it's genocide against whoever. Meanwhile, it's genocide against Nigerians for the sake of mining. You can do your mining there, and you can also do the refining there, and all your trial and error there. If anybody's water supply gets poisoned, it's a bunch of black people that dies. Nobody cares. If anybody's land gets poisoned, it's a bunch of Africans. Who cares? So you basically solved your supply issue and you've outsourced your risk. That's what that is about. The oil is, Trump doesn't need Nigerian oil because he already has it.
He already has Nigerian oil.
Yeah.
But what about people saying that this is a way of getting into Niger and weakening AES?
It's possible. It's almost a given that will be one of the goals. So it's killing multiple birds with one stone.
This is deep. Wow. Well, this has been very productive. I'm really like, we hear about Nigeria. We hear a lot of things about Nigeria. But it's one thing to get not only a Nigerian, but an investigative journalist who has sources, who knows everybody, who knows everything, to really come and tell us what Nigeria is all about. And that's what you've really done. You've really taught me so much about Nigeria. And I think as we conclude, what can you say? Okay, you know what? What's the last word you can, if you can look to this camera, what's the last word you'd like to give to Nigerians? A word of hope, a word of, just a word of encouragement, or anything you'd like to say to Nigerians?
Okay, so I watched a video last night that kind of got me in my feelings a bit. It was a Nigerian content creator. There's a new wave of Nigerian content where people find people who look like they're in need of help, and then they basically solve their problems. And it's great to watch because the beneficiary is so emotional and everything. In this case, it was this kid who apparently turned out to be 19 years old, who is working as like a scavenger, and the content creator approaches him and asks him, why is he doing that job? Would you rather be doing something else? And the kid says, well, he trained to be a tiler, and he learned in 2017 when he was 10 years old that he hasn't become a tiler because he hasn't been able to do freedom from his trainer. Freedom is a Nigerian term for like graduation, basically, from his vocational trainer. That what he needs to do is freedom is a tile cutting machine and some other equipment. And basically, because he doesn't have those things, he's stuck scavenging, basically. So this content creator takes him first to a barber shop, gets him a haircut, then to a boutique, gets him some nice clothes, to a restaurant, gets him some nice food, and then surprises him with a brand new tiling machine. And this kid looks at the tiling machine and just completely breaks down in tears, and he's hugging the tiling machine as if it's a long lost friend or something. Like, this little thing is going to change his life. And I Googled, how much is this thing? Like, that exact machine he was holding. Like, I checked it out on Jumia. So I'm watching it in Kenya. So the price was in Kenyan shillings. It was 4,900 Kenyan shillings. It's not a lot of money. But that thing was life-changing for this kid. Why that thing got me in my feelings so much was that this kid and millions, because there are millions like him across Nigeria who are never going to get to see a content creator that will make their dreams come true. This kid should never have been in that situation to begin with. This kid is in that situation because he is trapped in an economy that is not creating value for him. Under a government that is not working for his betterment. He's trapped in an economy that is creating value for Europeans and for Americans, under a government that works for Europeans and Americans. It's possible for a content creator to change his life, and he got 10 million views and everybody's happy because one life has been changed. But a government doing a similar thing could have changed 10 million lives easily without breaking a sweat. And it wouldn't even be news because that's the job of a government. Some people have convinced us that the state or that state capacity is something that we can live without, or is something we don't need to think about. Whether it's in the name of capitalism, whether it's in the name of whatever ideology that they've been exporting to us, some people have managed to convince us that living like this is okay. Living without expectations is okay. Living like a lizard crawling on the sand, literally eating sand, is okay. There's no problem with it because that's how things are meant to be, and it's the will of God. It's not the will of God. It's not how things are meant to be. It's the will of a white man in Washington, D.C. And that white man is not immortal. He's not smarter than you. He's not a better human than you. His life is not worth more than your own. The only advantage he has over you is organization. That's all. He's greedy and he's organized. And using those two things together, he has been able to take over your economy and reduce you to the low subsistence level. If you ever want anything to change, if you ever want to have a better life, it is possible. There are things you can do, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you what you should or shouldn't do because I think we all know the exact things that we should and shouldn't do. And we all know exactly who the people are that are responsible for this, who their local collaborators are, where they live, the jobs they have, where you can find them on any given day. We know all of these things. So if you put all these little data points together, it doesn't take a genius to work out what the course of action should be. And I'll leave it at that.
David, thank you so much for coming. When you come to Kenya again, we need to do I had a list of a lot of stuff we need to talk about. Maybe when you come back again, we'll do a part 2. But thank you. And, guys, it's been a good one. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and support Sell Africa. Africans support, West African Weekly, right?
The Spearhead.
Spearhead. Yeah, Spearhead. Oh yeah. I'm a fan of Spearhead, by the way. So, is there any other platform that you'd like people to follow and subscribe and you know and to support?
Well, you can follow the Spearhead on all the major traditional social media. You can also follow it on Upscrolled, which is the new and improved non-Western popular social media app, which is taking off now. So we have a presence on Upscrolled. It's at spearhead_AF. That's Spearhead Africa. So it's spearhead_AF. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.